In this video, we're going to focus on compression, and we're going to show you a really easy way to understand the basics of the threshold and ratio. And vocals are always good examples for that particular way of learning. So I'm going to take away the inspector for the moment so we get to see everything. Now have a listen.
Life has got me feeling down, spinning my head, it goes round and round.
So you can see there's a little variation in the volume. It's very natural.
I was drifting deep,
the energy's picked up a little bit here,
and
especially so around this point. So you can see it's a lot louder.
I can change what I've done.
Whilst we're here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the automation, and I'm going to bring this. Let me just turn to the normal pointer. Let's just turn it down a bit at that point, because I feel it's a little bit too loud and we don't want our compressor to overreact. So let's get in here and just deal with this. Sometimes you have to. I'm only doing this because it's actually a particularly strong difference, and I'm going to take this down about -6. Let's bring this over here, because she really put some extra effort into that, and I think it was just a little bit too energetic. Okay, so let's see how that sounds. We want to still try and keep it reasonably natural. Let's have a listen.
I can change what I've done.
Yeah.
I just have to.
For me, that's a lot more balanced now. So look, you can see that there is a difference in volume, and we need to even that out. And I'm talking about not the obvious case where that's visibly a lot louder, but I'm talking about some of these other areas. And we need to increase the ability of the listener to hear all the words and syllables above the musical backing, because it can be hard to compete with that. So the compressor is there to even out the volume. It literally is an automatic volume control. And the way it works is it relies on two main parameters. One is called the threshold, the other is the ratio. I've brought my transport up as a separate floating window here because I want you to visualize something. Now, I'm also going to bring the inspector back so that we can load a compressor onto this vocal channel. Firstly, you'll see that there it is, the channel EQ. The previous video, I actually turned that off because I didn't want it to be there without explaining why it is there. If I'm working on a vocal, and this is the way a lot of us will work, what we want to do also, as well as dealing with any large spikes in volume like this one, is also to make sure that there's not any extra low frequency energy. And so I'm going to take the vocal and I'm going to go to about 130 with a low cut here. Okay, so that's to take away anything that might be coming through the mic stand, and sometimes it does happen. There's a lot of low frequency energy down there, so I'm doing that first. So the low cut before the compressor, so it stops it from overworking. Now the compressor parameters on the Logic compressor are not set to help beginners, right? When you want to work with this, it's very hard to understand what's happening with the compressor if all you do is just load this up and then start working with it. To understand the basics, I'm going to suggest you do what I'm about to do here. Take the threshold all the way up to 0, okay? Now, the reason for that is because we want you to see and hear the compressor working. I'm going to take the makeup gain also down to 0. The ratio for the vocal, I'm going to go to about 4:1, okay? So this is going to be the strength of the compression, and I'll adjust that later so you can see how that works, but for the moment I'm going to go 4:1. The default settings that we have here are pretty much there, but I actually want this to actually compress straight away, so I'm going to take it really fast for the moment just to really illustrate what's going on. The release, about 50 or so, is probably about right. Okay, so look, we're going to go through this. I want you to visualize the threshold, right? When I bring this down, imagine this line up here, which at the moment is at 0 dB. The top of the waveform is 0 dB. In terms of a waveform, the middle is silence, and then as it goes up, that goes up to the 0 dB. All right, so 0 dB is the loudest we can go. I know it sounds a bit mad, we're dealing with things like -10, -20 dBs and so on as we get down the bottom. And you can see down here, we bring it right down, about -50 dB would be close to that line there. So it radiates the other side as well. So the 0 is here. So if you imagine a line coming down as you're bringing this threshold down, it would also be the same coming the other side, coming up. Okay. So what I would aim to do with my compressor is to bring my threshold down so that the louder parts of the vocal, can you see that I've put my line here and I'm taking the louder sections of the vocal above that line, just to show you what it might look like the other way. I'm going to do this here. Can you see that there are small spikes of vocal that are projecting above this line? So if you imagine I'm saying I'm bringing a threshold down, these are the volumes that are above that threshold. What I'm going to do then is with my ratio, I'm going to turn them down. It doesn't affect anything underneath the threshold, okay? So these are the basics of compression. If it goes above, it's going to turn it down, okay? The higher the ratio, the stronger it is, the more it's going to turn it down. And 4:1 is a pretty good all-rounder for vocals. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring it down. So we start at 0 dB, we keep coming down. Then we're going to start to see, as the signal goes above the threshold, we're going to see over here on the gain reduction meter some flashing. This goes from 0 here right down to -50. And what happens is it's going to show us visibly how much the compressor is turning the volume down. That's the way it's working. So start at the top, I'll bring it down. You'll be able to see how this works. Here we go. Let's take this back up so you can visualize it. I'll make this match pretty much what it is in a minute. So here we go.
Life has got
No compression at the moment.
down.
There's no gain reduction. You see that? Let's keep going down.
Spinning my head,
Right.
it goes round.
The compressor is working
and
slightly.
round.
What I'm going to try and do is bring this down so that I'm just above the quiet bits in the vocal.
Life has got me feeling down.
Let's have a look at this section here.
Spinning my head, it goes round and round.
Brilliant. So you see where round and round there was no compression going on. That's a quiet part of the vocal. Watch the amount of reduction it's set to.
Life has got me
The
feeling
maximum reduction
down.
so far has been -2. Let's keep going again.
Spinning my head, it goes round and round.
So we've compressed, we've taken the volume down by -2 dBs, and that's because of the ratio at the moment. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down so you can see that visibly. We would be looking at anything above this line is turned down. So we're looking at this area. So you see all of these points here. If I play that, we might get a good match.
Life
You
has
can see the
got
compressor
me
working at these
feeling
points
down.
and then not. So there we go. It's very accurate. You can see that the way it's working.
Spinning my head, it goes round and round.
So very much similar in terms of the way that's
I was
working. So I've compressed the vocal quite slightly, you know, but what it's doing is it's doing it quite naturally, which is the way we want to do it. We don't sound too obvious. Let's keep it going on this second part of the verse because this is a lot louder.
I was drifting
So the most amount of compression we've had here was -4 dBs.
I can change what I've done. I just have to learn about myself, yeah.
So what we need to do is we need to work out what's the maximum amount of reduction that we had so far. So it's been -4. And then we say on the gain makeup, we say plus to match the amount it was reduced at. So basically, it has the effect of turning up the quiet bits. We're turning the loud bits down and then lifting the whole level of the vocal up afterwards. So have a listen now.
Life has got me feeling down.
Let's take it back over that section. I'm going to loop it. I'm going to take basically take the compressor out of the circuit. Have a listen.
Life has got me feeling down.
That's without the compression. Now with it.
Life has got me feeling down.
Much more up front, you know. It's going to cut through the mix a lot better that way.